Alright, here we're going to talk about coterminal angles. You heard me mention coterminal angles in the last section. They are a very, very important part of trig. They can help make things a lot easier and simplify things. So what is a coterminal angle? Well, it's on your sheet, or on your packet. Coterminal angles are angles with the same initial and terminal side. And so again, look at all this stuff coming back. The vocabulary is very important that we understand what is an initial and what is a terminal side. So if I have this initial side and this terminal side, I might have some angle here that would represent this angle with that initial and that terminal side. I could also have a negative angle that represents it. Now, those two things we've seen already. We talked about those. How else can I have coterminal angles? Well, we can go around a circle more than once. So remember, we did see an angle that was larger than 360 degrees. And then when we converted it to radians, it was larger than 2 pi. This can happen in both the positive and negative direction. And it can happen as many times as you want. So I could have that angle there. That's a positive angle. It is a coterminal angle of the red and the purple. We can do this in the negative direction as well. And so on. And I can keep going. You can go around the circle as many times as you want. So when we talk about coterminal angle, every angle has an infinite amount of coterminal angles. And again, this is already typed on your packet for you. So how do we find coterminal angles of a given angle? Well, if it's in degrees, what do you think we're going to do? Well, if we're going around a circle again, how far is it around a circle in degrees? It's 360 degrees. What about radians? If it's in radians, we go around 2 pi. So we're going to add or subtract 360 degrees or 2 pi radians. So if we have these 4 angles here, we want to determine 2 coterminal angles. Again, there are an infinite amount. We want to determine 2 coterminal angles, one of which is positive and one of which is negative. So we'll do a couple together, and then you'll do a couple on your own. So negative 20 degrees plus 360 degrees is going to be 340 degrees. So 340 degrees is a positive coterminal angle of negative 20 degrees. Negative 380 degrees is a negative coterminal angle of negative 20 degrees. And for both of these, I could continue to add 360 or continue to subtract 360, and I will continue to find coterminal angles of negative 20 degrees. What about with radians? So 3 pi sevenths plus 2 pi. 2 pi is actually 14 pi sevenths. So 14 plus 3 is 17 pi sevenths. And if I do subtraction, I'm going to subtract 2 pi, which is the same as 14 pi sevenths, and I get negative 11 pi sevenths. So now, guess what I'm going to ask you to do? You guessed it. You are going to pause the video. You are going to find one positive and one negative coterminal angle of 420 degrees, and you are going to find one positive and one negative coterminal angle of negative 11 pi thirds. Pause the video. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so starting with 420 degrees. If we add 360 degrees, we get 780 degrees. That is a positive coterminal angle of 420 degrees. Starting at 420 degrees, if I subtract 360 degrees, I get 60 degrees. That is also a positive coterminal angle of 420 degrees. I need to get one positive and one negative, so I need to continue to subtract 360 degrees. So I take 60 degrees, which was a coterminal angle, and I subtract 360 degrees from that. That gives me negative 300 degrees. So this is one negative, and then either of those would be a positive coterminal angle. Similar thing happens over here with the radians. If I start with negative 11 pi thirds and I subtract 2 pi, first I need to convert 2 pi into thirds. So 2 pi is 6 pi thirds. So negative 11 pi thirds minus 6 pi thirds is negative 17 pi thirds. That is a negative coterminal angle of negative 11 pi thirds. If I take negative 11 pi thirds and I add 2 pi, which is 6 pi thirds, I get negative 5 pi thirds, also a negative coterminal angle of negative 11 pi thirds. So to get a positive coterminal angle, I need to continue to add 2 pi. So if I add 6 pi thirds again, I get pi thirds. So this is an example of a positive coterminal angle. Here is a negative coterminal angle. This is also a negative coterminal angle. You do not need both of them for an answer, but you need one negative and one positive. Keep in mind, you could continue to add 2 pi and continue to get positive coterminal angles. Or you can continue to subtract and continue to get negative coterminal angles. So these are just a couple examples of possible answers. Remember, there are an infinite amount of answers. However, you don't want to continue to find coterminal angles unless you need to, because then you're just wasting your time. So the conclusion here, coterminal angles, same initial and terminal side. They can be positive, they can be negative. There are an infinite amount for any given angle in standard position.